Do you believe someone can die for 3 minutes and return with a message about the future of humanity? In today's video, you'll learn the story of Noah Reyes, a young man from the United States who, after an NDE, revealed who will start World War III and the exact date, a mysterious symbol, a spiritual war, and a choice we all must make. Like, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. They call me Noah. I'm 16 years old and I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. If you're watching this, it's because I finally decided to tell you what I saw. Not because I want attention, fame, or likes, but because of what happened to me. It was not to be forgotten, and the more time passes, the more I feel like I'm being watched, as if someone knows I remember, and they want me to keep quiet. It all happened on a Friday in August. It was unbearably hot, the kind of dry heat that seems to bake your brain from the inside out. I was competing in a cross-country race for my school team. It was one of the final stages of the state championship, and my father, a former military man, was in the stands, cheering. I ran as far as I could, but in the final few meters, my vision began to darken, as if the world were shutting down. My feet felt weak, my mouth felt dry, my heart racing, and then, nothing. But this nothing was not the end. It was the start. According to the doctors, my heart stopped for exactly 3 minutes. 3 minutes of my body not responding, during which the medical team administered shocks, adrenaline, everything. They said it was extreme heat-induced cardiac syncope, but no one can explain it. What happened to me during this time? Because I wasn't unconscious. I was somewhere that it wasn't here. First, I found myself floating above the racetrack. The heat of the sun no longer bothered me. The sound of people shouting seemed muffled, distant, and then everything had disappeared, as if someone had erased reality with a snap of their fingers. I found myself in a complete void, not dark, not light, just conscious emptiness, until a golden light began to grow around me. It wasn't a normal light. It was breathing, pulsed, and in the center of it, something appeared that looked like a mirror or living screen, but it didn't show my reflection. It showed the future. I saw a world map floating before me, divided by a fiery line of energy. On one side, China, Russia, and Iran. On the other, the United States, Europe, and allied countries. A perfect, almost surgical division. Flags fluttered silently. The world split in two, and then I heard it. A voice, faceless, genderless, just presence. The world will be divided, hearts too. Choose your side. It was at that moment that I realized that it wasn't just any warning. It was a verdict, something much bigger than politics, much bigger than ordinary war. I was seeing behind the scenes of what would come to be called the greatest conflict in human history. I know it sounds crazy, but I died for 3 minutes, and in those 3 minutes, I saw the truth. When that voice spoke, choose your side, it wasn't like a question. It was like assailant command, which lodged itself inside me like a brand. I didn't know what it meant exactly, but I felt deep down that something was being demanded of me, as if the simple fact of being there, in that in-between worlds, made me part of a game I never agreed to play, but which too couldn't leave anymore. That living screen before me began to transform. It was no longer just a map. The images began to move at an absurd speed, as if time had been accelerated. I saw demonstrations, economic collapses, impassioned speeches, and then silence. A silence charged with something horrible about to happen. And then I saw the date, November 16th, 2025. The image froze. An American city, it seemed to be Chicago or Philadelphia, appeared in the center of the screen, shrouded in a yellowish haze. Sirens echoed in the distance. The sky looked wounded, as if it were bleeding red light. And then, an explosion, not like the ones we see in movies. This one felt too real, so real that I felt my stomach turn, even outside my body. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a vision, it was a record, something that was already written, like a recording of something that hadn't happened yet. The image moved again, and this time I saw faces, world leaders. Some I recognized, the President of the United States, the Premier of China, and others I'd never seen before, but whose eyes seemed empty, as if carrying centuries of secrets. They were seated at a round table, with a symbol drawn in the center, a circle divided by 3 lines, like an unfinished triangle. I didn't understand what that meant. Still don't. The voice returned. They have already decided. Now hearts will decide. It's not about nations. It's about consciousness, about essence, about light and shadow. At that moment, I felt something terrible. The choice was not about geopolitical sides. It was about what exists within each person. The entire world would be divided, not just between countries, but between souls, between those who would accept chaos and those who would resist. I wanted to ask what to do. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. All I could do was to feel, and what I felt was a dull ancestral pain, as if 1,000 civilizations were dying inside me at the same time. And then I saw one last image before I was pulled back, an open field, full of bodies, but all the faces were eyeless, as if the world had chosen not see. I woke up in the hospital, with the voice echoing inside me. You saw it. Now choose what you're going to do with it. When I opened my eyes in the hospital, the fluorescent light blinded me for a second. I heard my mother crying softly beside the bed and my father whispering to a doctor in the hallway, but none of it felt real. The sound, the texture of the sheets, the weight of my body. It was like I was back, but not integer. It wasn't until I looked at the heart monitor and saw my heart beating that I understood. I was back, but something was left on the other side. Or maybe something came with me. For the next few days, I hardly spoke. My mother thought it was the trauma. The doctor called it post-arrest disorientation, but it wasn't that. It was as if the world I knew had been painted over another, much more real, much darker. I saw people talking normally, going to school, driving, smiling, but in each of them, I saw a reflection of what I saw in the vision, people who had no idea what was coming. I started writing everything down in my father's old notebook. I drew the symbol I saw on that round table. I tried to sketch out the map with the energy division, and when I reached the date, November 16th, 2025, something inside me trembled. Writing it down on paper made me tremble as if I were signing my own death warrant. But the most bizarre thing came days later. I was alone in my room, rereading my notes, when I noticed something strange in the mirror. Not my face, but my eyes. They were different. The reflection showed my normal, brown eyes, but for a split second, I saw a golden spiral in the center of the iris, a kind of glow that flickered and disappeared. That night, I dreamed of the same field of bodies I'd seen in the vision, only now I was walking among them. The eyeless faces slowly turned toward me and said in unison, "You saw it. Now let me know, or you'll be next." I woke up with a dry throat and sweat dripping down my forehead, and when I looked at the table next to my bed, my notebook was opened exactly on the date page, but I was sure I had left it closed. Something was trying to remind me, or force me, or warn me. The next day at school, everything seemed the same, except for one thing. A third grader, I'd never spoken to him, passed me in the hallway and said, "You shouldn't have come back," and he continued walking as if nothing had happened. I was paralyzed. How did he know? How could he know? That night I decided I could no longer ignore it. I was going to tell you everything. I just didn't imagine that this would put my life at risk again. After that day at school, my head was a blur of fear and urgency. I could no longer pretend it was all just post-traumatic delirium. The vision was real. The message was real. And now, people I'd never met were watching me. And worse, they knew what I saw. That same night, when I came home from school, I found an envelope on my desk. My mom said she found it on the doormat and thought it was study material. But there was no sender, no postmark. It wasn't even sealed. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded in half. No address, no signature. Just a handwritten sentence in firm black letters. "Don't say anything. They don't know how much you saw yet." My stomach sank. The paper trembled in my hand. My first instinct was to show it to my father, but something inside me said, "Don't do it yet. He's a former military man, trained to react." If this was part of something bigger, as I suspected, exposing too much could put everyone in danger. That morning, the dream returned. But this time, I was not a spectator. I was in the same dark room as the vision, the round table, the symbol in the center, the serious faces discussing in another language that my mind seemed to understand even without translation. And then, one of them slammed his hand on the table and said, clearly, The boy wasn't erased. He saw the core. He saw the code. Another replied, "If he tells, the imbalance will start sooner." I woke up screaming. My mother ran into my room, frightened. She said I was sweating and speaking in a language she didn't recognize. She thought it was a fever, but I knew. I was going back there. The next morning, I decided to do what any desperate, curious teenager would do. I recorded a video, but it wasn't supposed to be posted. Not yet. It was a record. If something happened to me, someone would have to know. My name is Noah Reyes. I died for 3 minutes and saw the future of humanity. A war is coming. It has already begun behind the scenes, and it will be the end of everything we know. The world will divide, and the symbol, it is everywhere. When I finished recording, something knocked on the window. It was night. I opened it slowly, my heart pounding, and outside, on the windowsill, there was another paper stuck with tape. This time, it just said, "Be careful what you record." I fell to the floor sitting down, my hands shaking. They were nearby. After the second threat, the feeling that I was being watched all the time became unbearable. I began to distrust everything. The sound of the car driving too slowly in front of the house, the vacant glances in the school hallway, the math teacher who stared at me for too long without blinking. Was it paranoia? Maybe. But after what I saw, it wasn't an exaggeration. It was survival. The first thing I did was try to understand the thing symbol, that circle with 3 lines crossing the center, an unfinished triangle, almost a broken compass. I grabbed my phone and started searching. I typed everything. Occult symbol, secret organizations, divided triangle, circle with 3 lines. Nothing, until an image on an old conspiracy forum caught my eye. It was a black and white photograph of a political meeting in the 1970s. A man in the background, almost out of focus, was wearing a brooch, identical to the symbol. The caption read, "Visual Identity of the Global Transition Council, a group denied by the US government since 1968. My heart almost stopped again. I asked my dad to take me to the Flagstaff Central Library. He said it was for a history project. There, among old newspapers and dusty microfilm, I found a report from the Arizona Republic, dated 1979. A forgotten headline read, "Former intelligence official claims future war already planned by Invisible Group." The article was vague. The former employee died in a car accident 3 days after the interview. But halfway through, the reporter mentioned something that made me freeze. According to him, the council divides the world into 2 blocks and believes that by provoking a conflict between them, it could accelerate a spiritual reconfiguration of humanity. There it was, the same division that I saw, the same speech, the same hidden plant it was shown to me during my NDE. I returned home dizzy, my mind spinning. This wasn't just a spiritual vision. It was part of something real, designed decades ago, hidden under governments, wars, and distorted stories. That night, I began drawing the symbol repeatedly on notebook paper. It was as if my hand moved on its own, guided by something I didn't yet understand. I fell asleep drawing, and I dreamed. But the dream was different. This time, I was surrounded by people, but they all had their eyes sewn shut. They didn't speak, they just pointed at me, and when I looked at my hands, the symbol was engraved on the palms, as if it had been burned into the skin. I woke up gasping, with the sheets soaked. I ran to the mirror and turned my hands over. Nothing was visible, but I felt it. It was as if something had been marked inside me, a warning or a key, and that's when I decided, if no one else will tell the truth, I will. That morning was the point of no return. I already had the video recorded. I already had the information, the signs, the dreams, the anonymous papers. Everything inside me told me not to do this, that maybe there was still time to simply erase everything, pretend none of it was real, that it was just the trauma of the cardiac arrest. But it wasn't. It couldn't be. I opened my laptop and logged into a new TikTok account, without my name or photo, just a satellite image of the Earth split in half, exactly like the map I saw during the NDE. I used a robotic voice filter, one of those AI ones, just to ensure anonymity. In the video, I spoke slowly, as if reading a sentence. 3 weeks ago, my heart stopped for 3 minutes. In that time, I saw the future. The world will divide. It will happen on November 16th, 2025. This war has already begun in secret. Whoever is listening to this, understand, You will have to choose. The symbol is everywhere. I added highlighted text to the video. They are among us. The war has a date. Choose your side. I clicked publish. For a few seconds, I stared at the blank screen, feeling like I'd dropped an invisible bomb into the heart of the internet. And then, slowly, the numbers began to climb. 100, 800, 2,000 views in less than an hour. And the comments, creepy, but interesting. Teenage version of the conspiracy theory LOL. That symbol, I've seen it before in a dream. I'm in shock. Has anyone else dreamed about an explosion in Chicago? What gave me goosebumps was an anonymous private message. You are not alone. I also died for 4 minutes. I saw the same map, the division, the flags, the date, 11/16/2025. My heart raced. More people had seen the same, other NDEs with the same message. I started receiving dozens of messages an hour, some mocking, but many eerily similar to my story. Dreams of cities burning, people seeing symbols in random places, people waking up with the same feeling as me, that something is about to pierce the veil of reality. But then, the next morning, as I was having coffee with my father, a news story in the local paper stopped me in my tracks. Strange graffiti appears on Flagstaff school wall, unknown symbol and enigmatic date. The image was clear, the same symbol I saw in my vision, and below it, painted in red paint, 16/11/2025. I stood still. I didn't paint that, but someone painted. Someone knew, or they were watching me. After that morning, nothing was the same. I walked the city streets as if walking through an invisible minefield. Every glance lingered a second longer. Every parked car seemed suspicious. The symbol appeared in 3 more places that week. A sidewall of the market on my street, the door of an abandoned warehouse, and, most frightening, scrawled in pen on the school locker I'd used since 6th grade. I knew that was no coincidence. I started receiving cryptic email messages, all from nameless senders. Most were vague, sounding like crazy theories or apocalyptic fan fiction. But one of them changed everything. The subject was, "We saw it too." The body of the email had only one sentence. Reading room, Central Library, 3 p.m. Don't bring your cell phone. The urge to ignore it was immediate, but something inside me knew that if I let it go, I might never have another chance to find out what was happening. I went, hidden. No cell phone, no backpack, just a notebook in my pocket. When I entered the library's reading room, it was nearly empty, but in the far corner, a girl, maybe my age, looked up from an old book and gave a subtle nod, as if she'd known I was coming. I approached, my heart racing. "Are you the one in the video?" she asked, barely moving her lips. "I am," I replied, whispering. "Did you see it too?" She nodded. But what I saw was more than just a war. Her name was Maya. She was 17 years old. She lived 2 towns away. She suffered respiratory arrest during a house fire and was revived after 4 minutes without a heartbeat. And in the time between life and death, she was taken to the same place, the void, the pulsating light, the symbol, and the divided map. "But there was something you didn't see, Noah," she said. "I saw what came next." "After the war?" I asked. She nodded. "Humanity isn't just divided, it's chosen, as if the world were a sieve, a spiritual filter, a final test. And whoever isn't on the right side evaporates, doesn't die, vanishes from existence, as if they were never born." I was silent for a moment, a chill creeping up my spine. She pulled a yellowed page from her backpack, a hand-drawn drawing, the same symbol, but with something else. In the center, there was now an open eye, with a flame in place of the pupil. "They call it the Eye of Judgment," she said, "and it's waking up." Before I could ask anything, she handed me the paper and whispered, "They know you posted it, and now they know me too. We're not just seeing it, we're being used." I left the library certain that I had walked into something much greater than any vision. Now, I was part of something that maybe should never have been revealed. The image Maya gave me wouldn't leave my mind. That symbol I'd seen so many times, the circle intersected by 3 lines, now had something new, a central flaming eye, an eye that seemed to look back at me, even though it was just ink on old paper. I spent the night awake. Every shadow in the room seemed to move. Every sound of the wind became a whisper, and no matter how much I tried to deny it, something inside me said, He woke up. The next morning, something even stranger happened. I was at school, walking to biology class, when one of the projectors in the hallway started to malfunction. The screen flickered, shook, and suddenly, the image froze on a white background, and for half a second, the symbol with the flaming eye appeared in the middle of the screen, just like Maya's role. Then it went back to normal. I looked at the other students. No one seemed to have seen it. Only me. That afternoon, my email received a new message with no sender. Just one line in the body of the text. The eye has been opened. Now all will be revealed. Unsure of what to do, I headed to a place where I always felt safe, the forest trail behind my school, where I sometimes walked with my father as a child. But when I got there, I noticed something on the ground, written in neatly stacked stones. 16/11/2025. There were no footprints, no sign of anyone having been there, but it was clear. They knew where I was going to be, and they wanted to remind me that time was running out. At night, I tried to meditate. I wanted to provoke another vision. I wanted to understand what that eye meant. I wanted to know if there was right side to choose, if I had any choice at all. I closed my eyes, I took a deep breath, and then it all disappeared. I returned to that pulsating void and where time seemed frozen. Only now, the sky of that spiritual place was red, burning. The air vibrated, as if about to explode. And then, he appeared. The eye, giant, comprehensive, alive. It spun slowly in the center of nothingness, like a star about to swallow the universe. And within it, I saw the reflection of the earth, and the earth was cracking, splitting in half, exactly like the map from my first vision. A voice spoke, but it was no ordinary voice. It was like a calm thunder. What has been shown is just the beginning. The conflict has already begun. Each will be called to choose, and each choice will be charged. I wanted to ask, "Who are you?" But the eye entered me. Before I could say a word, it was as if the entire universe had shrunk into my chest. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the floor of my room, shaking, crying, and in the mirror, for a second, my eyes looked just like the ones in the drawing. The pupil looked like a spinning flame. From that moment on, I understood. The eye was not just awake, it was now using me to see. After that night, normal life became impossible. I went to school. First, he tried to pretend I was just another teenager, but inside, I carried a presence. The eye watched me, from the inside out, and I felt like at any moment he might open up completely and do something I didn't yet understand. Maya stopped responding to my messages. I tried writing, calling, and emailing. Nothing. The last sign I had of her was an anonymous post on an occult forum titled, "They are rounding up those who talked too much." That destroyed me inside. I began to notice other changes. People on the street wore t-shirts with subtle variations of the symbol. A bus driver with the triangle discreetly drawn on his keychain. A supermarket cashier with a barely noticeable tattoo on his wrist. It was no coincidence. They were everywhere, mixed in with us, invisible, working like silent gears of a plan that, until then, only I believed I knew. Until I received the scariest message of all. It was a photo, that's all. A typed list, as if it had come out of an office printer. In the image, dozens of names are organized by date of birth, city, and last spiritual activity. And the worst, my name was there. Noah Reyes, Flagstaff, AZ, full view, signal active. Below my name were others I'd never seen before. But the most arresting one came right below them all, in red letters. Priority, neutralization before 11/01/2025. My body froze. My heart stopped for a second. They weren't just monitoring. They had a deadline, and I was a target. That's when I started hearing noises outside my window in the early hours. Whispers in the school hallway that stopped as I approached. New students signing up. Substitute teachers appearing out of nowhere. It all began to feel like part of something much bigger. That night, I decided I couldn't hide anymore. I shot the most direct video I've ever made. No disguises, no effects. If you're seeing this, know that there is a list. People marked by something they saw during death. People who came back with messages and are being persecuted. I'm one of them. And if they erase me, the truth goes with it. But not before you know this. The war has a date. November 16th, 2025, and we will all have to choose a side. now, because the eye is already open, and it is counting each choice. I posted it, and I ran out of the house, because at that exact moment, my father shouted from the living room, "Noah, there's someone in the backyard." My father's voice tore through the silence of the house. When I ran into the living room, he was standing at the back door, his cell phone in his hand, his face chalk white. They were here. There were two men in the yard, one with a hoodie, the other with something on his shoulder. I couldn't see their faces. He called the police, of course. But, as always, when they arrived, there was no one. No footprints. No cameras captured anything. Nothing. That morning, I didn't sleep. I locked myself in my room with my laptop. I re-entered the video I'd posted hours earlier. In less than 5 hours, it had already surpassed 2 million views. Most of the comments were filled with astonishment, shock, and fear, but a few resonated deeply with me. The symbol appeared in my dream this week. I almost died in 2019. I saw the same flaming eye. Has anyone else here seen the line dividing the planet in two? I live in Israel. I've dreamed of a war in 2025 since I was a child. In my NDE, I heard the same phrase. The future cannot be changed, but choices can. That confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't the only one. I never was. But maybe I was one of the few still alive to tell the tale. As I was scrolling through the comments, a notification stopped me. Direct message. Sender. Silent Eye 303. I clicked. There was only one video. I opened it hesitantly. The image shook, as if it were being secretly recorded. The camera showed a wall with dozens of names plastered across it, like an investigation. Files, photos, locations, and in the bottom corner, Maya, frozen in a surveillance image, next to what appeared to be a glass cell, and below the image, a sentence flashed in red. She didn't choose in time. I threw the phone away. I fell to my knees on the floor. I knew she was gone. But seeing that, knowing she was there, socket, used as bait or example, broke me. I cried, not for myself, but for her, for all of us. At that moment, something inside me fell silent, and another part turned on. I opened the camera. I recorded one last video, this time without fear, without disguise. My name is Noah Reyes. I'm 16 years old. I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona. And this may be my final warning. I died for 3 minutes and was taken to a place where the future is shown as a sentence. The world is divided, but there is still time to decide. The eye is open, and it is watching everything. The symbol is not just a sign, it's a brand. And if you dreamed about him, if you felt this calling, if you also died and came back, then you have been marked too. They will try to silence you, like they tried with me, like they succeeded with Maya. But it doesn't matter, because now, millions know, and there's no going back. The war has already begun, and if you are watching this, you have a choice to make. I posted it. The next morning, my cell phone rang at 6 a.m. Unknown number. I answered. A deep, metallic, emotionless voice spoke. "You've done your job. Now run away." The line went dead, and at that moment, the TV in the living room turned on by itself. On the screen, only one sentence. The date is near. The trial will be collective. I don't know how much time I have left, but if you're watching this video, do not ignore. Choose your side. If you enjoyed this beautiful spiritual testimony, please leave a like, comment, share your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time,